at the same time they were developing their doctrines in France, the new Kabbalah was also developing, the Bahir book. So you have really...
you have to define this. I didn't know about a new Kabbalah, and I'm sure my listeners don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, the Kabbalah is kind of the mythical tradition of Judaism. Now, what happened with Sabatini...
It's a numerological system where every letter has a number attached to it, and that's basically the belief system of Kabbalah, was that every word has significance numerologically.
Now, what's very similar to the Gnostics is the Gnostics believe that the biblical God had spheres of influence which go from the highest realms to the lower realms. And the Kabbalists had developed a very similar system of Sephirot, of God manifesting from higher spheres to the lower worldly spheres. And so,
now, Sephirot would be numbers?
Every Sephirot every sphere has a number, has a name. They're built like pillars. And another thing which the Marranos and the Templars had in common is that the Templars were known as the Knights of the Temple of Solomon, and the Marranos, of course, as Jews, were very into Solomon and his temple. So they had many things in common, and together they were the pirates using the Skull and Bones banner, discovering the New World, wanting to create a New World Order in the New World. Now, this is where the Rosslyn Chapel comes in, because the only place where you could find corn back in those days was in the American continent. And in the Rosslyn Chapel, they have a corn engraved on one of the walls. Now, the only people who could have known corn back then were pretty much the Templars, who went to the new continent with a Marrano and discovered.
How did the Templars in the 14th century go to the new... Look, the Templars went to Jerusalem in the 14th century, and they brought back all kinds of artifacts. There's a whole legend behind this. But the Rosslyn Chapel is supposedly an exact duplicate of Herod's temple.
Well, what I'm saying is, in the end...
How did they get to the New World before Columbus, you're saying?
I'm not sure, but I think the Rosslyn Chapel... Well, you see, the corn which they engraved there might have been engraved even after they built the chapel itself. But again, the time which it was engraved there, the only people who could have known such thing as corn were the Templars, who were the first ones to, step into the New World, pretty much.
All right, we'll leave that to you.
Okay.
Carry on. It's a very complicated... especially to people who have no background in this, it's a very complicated story.
Now this is a minor issue. Now this is where I'm getting to. After all of that, the cooperation of the Marranos with the Templars, there was the Inquisition, and because of the Inquisitions, the Marranos were spread all around Europe and in the American continent. Okay, now. They were very influential in those places, also in finance and maritime finance. And the thing is, the first pretty much prophet of Sabbateanism was a Marrano, Portuguese Marrano, and his name was Cardozo. And he invented this whole metaphysics of how Sabbateanism goes with being a Marrano, because a Marrano conceals his identity within another identity, while the Sabbateans did the same thing when half of the Jewish population believed in Sabbatai Tzvi as the Messiah, but as soon as
I've got to again help my listeners a little bit. The Spanish Inquisition began actually on Tisha B'Av. October of 1492, just as Christopher Columbus, once again, just as Christopher Columbus was about to sail the ocean blue, that's when the Jews were removed from Spain. Those who remained, in Spain had to become Catholic. There was no choice. these are the Marranos, at least of the Spanish Inquisition. That's how they got there.
Yeah, but what's interesting is the first people to take upon themselves the Sabbateanism, and this is according to the greatest scholars in this subject, like Gershom Scholem, were the Marranos. They were the first to take it in. Now, what happened later is that Sabbatai Tzvi converted to Islam. The prophet of Sabbateanism, Sabbatai Tzvi, converted to Islam, and so many.
He was forced converted.
Right. To Islam. But the thing is, the only Jews, or most of the only Jews who still lived up to Sabbateanism were the Marranos, because they were the only one who could relate to this kind of action. And the first prophet of Sabbateanism, Cardozo, a Marrano Portuguese, he even prophesied that the Messiah would be a Marrano. And again,
Nathan of Gaza, who was his philosopher and spread the rumor that he did it on purpose, he converted to enter their world and do all kinds of devious stuff, was he a Marrano?
Not Nathan of Gaza, but Cardozo was not less influenced than Nathan of Gaza. And there was a time where they cooperated more, and times where they cooperated less. But Cardozo was one of the major prophets of Sabbateanism. He was a Marrano Portuguese Jew, the first people all around, and that's how they had the first network from the American continent through Europe to North America. To have this network of all those first people who converted to Sabbateanism was the Marranos, who were expelled during the Inquisition. So this was the first network of Sabbateanism, was the Marranos, who cooperated with the Templars. And it's very first of all, it's very interesting, but it makes a lot of sense, because cooperating with the Templars already instilled into them the whole new mysticism and metaphysics of the secret societies, which was a very fertile ground for Sabbateanism to come in to the Jewish communities. And they were the only ones.
But the Marranos themselves didn't despise God. I mean,
they didn't. But once
Tzvi's ideology wouldn't have been all that popular in Portugal or anywhere where there were Marranos. It caught on in Turkey.
The Marranos were expelled to all around the world, including Turkey. Many of the Marranos in Portuguese came to Turkey, and they were pretty much the first network to become the Donme later. The Donme is the Sabbatean group within Turkey, which you cannot understand how Sabbateanism was so big. It was such a very a hardcore, mystical, new, subversive tradition. The only place where it could come in is to Jews who are already could accept being having a dual identity, dealing with mysticism and with other secret societies as the Templars. And so Gershom Scholem also writes that the whole metaphysics of the Sabbateanism later would very much be based on the Marrano psychological identities and psychological enigmas which they had with themselves.
I think we should mention something that is giving me a few problems, is that Sabbateanism was really largely based on sexual deviation from the Bible.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But
I can't see these Marranos. All right, what the heck? It's a surprising world.
Well, you see, in the end, Gershom Scholem, he talks about it very, very in length on how the Marranos were the first network to become the Sabbateans and spread it around, and the people who stayed reliable to it, because pretty much Sabbatai Tzvi became a Marrano himself because he was forced to convert to Islam, like they were forced to convert to Christianity. So the whole metaphysics of Sabbateanism is based on the Marrano experience. Now let me give you here.
And how did the Marranos spread the message of Sabbatai Tzvi? Even if they could do it worldwide, I want to know why they would spread this oh, darn, Elad.
It's because they're... Yeah, it's
it went very fast, but that's the
mysticism.
beep where the commercials come in. I knew it would go very fast, and I've got a whole bunch of questions for you. You've got more questions than I have. How did the Marranos spread this version of Judaism, which was the polar opposite of the real Judaism? We'll find out when we come back in 3 minutes.